Hi, this is Dr. David Klein with Stages of Life Medical Institute. And I'm going to do a short little ditty right now on preparedness. What has the COVID crisis, the pandemic, the epidemic, the issue that we're having taught us with regards to being prepared? Okay, in Florida, we have seasons that we worry with. We have a season where we have hurricanes. This begins in June and ends in November. We know this is going to get a little bit weird towards the end of the season because that's when the really nasty ones occur. But they can begin in May. So what do we do in Florida, having learned this lesson over and over and over again? I've lived here for 20 years. I've been through a lot of these disasters, a lot of hurricanes, a lot of tornadoes. So what do you learn? And what you learn is to be self-sufficient to the extent that you can. You have to have sufficient supplies on hand to make it at least a week, if not 3 weeks, because even though we live in a developed country, a highly developed country, it may be 3 weeks or longer before you get power. The folks in the Keys, they learned the lesson. It may take 6 months to get power. So what do you do? I'm not going to get into the advantages of solar. I'm not going to get into the advantages of having a generator. I bought both. Why? Because I believe in redundancy. But I work hard, paid the money for it. Most people do not. Most people wait until the last minute. They'll buy some little Honda and think that it'll fire off more than a refrigerator. That's not what we're going to talk about here. What we're going to talk about is preparing for the epidemic, preparing for the disaster that you don't necessarily see coming. We did not see this one coming. I didn't see it coming, and I do this for a living. It's an odd thing, but what you want to do is prepare and have at least 3 to 6 weeks worth of food, dried food, canned food on hand, things that don't spoil. Now you're going to think, well, that's a lot of money. Well, it is. It's a whole lot more money if you have to go out and buy it during the crisis. And you can rotate things through as the year goes on so they don't go bad. You learn what to do about milk. Okay, you learn how to buy those little cartons that don't need to be kept refrigerated. You learn how to make sure that you have a 6-week supply of things like toothpaste, wouldn't you know? Toilet paper, great idea. And having first aid kits, things that may or may not be part of your thought process. Well, why do I need a first aid kit? The Doc in the Box is right down the street. And the answer is because they leave. Okay, go find some of these individuals. Well, if you don't have a real problem, you're out the door because they don't want to get infected from you. This is not the zombie apocalypse, but it's a dry run for the ones that could be. So when I was with the Air Force and subsequently the Navy, believe it or not, my specialty, in addition to my 5 boards, was chemical and biological weapons. Okay, I was a CWBW guy. Okay, I did a lot of work in dark rooms looking at satellite recon photos. Okay, and it's surprising the sort of damage that you can do with something that may not be any bigger than a suitcase to whole populations. So this is a dry run in case of something called bioterrorism, which the more you learn about it, the more it ought to scare the crud out of you. So when somebody comes on the television and goes, I think it might be a good idea for you to go home and stay there, don't come out until we tell you to come out. They'll do it with a smile on their face, with some alacrity, some elan. Listen to what they're telling you. And if you've got kids that think that they're above listening to instruction, you figure out a way to handcuff them to a bed. You got to do what you got to do to keep your family safe. This is a big deal. What were the things that you ran out of during the past 6 weeks? All right? What are you going to run out of over the next 3 weeks? The supply chain never broke down, believe it or not, but the distribution chain did. That's where the real issue is. So if you have a garage, instead of keeping old junk in there, things that you're never going to use again, it's a perfect place to put canned goods. It's a perfect place to put things that you don't have to worry too much about rats and mice getting into. Cans they can't really chew into very well. This is what you need to be doing. This is how you think it through. You have to think critically. What would I need right now to get by for a week? What do I need for 2 weeks? What do I need for 3 weeks? It's a good idea to have an extra canister of propane so you can fire off your grill out back. Because I'll tell you what, if the power goes down, you can still work. Gallons of bleach. Okay, this is really, really important. 2 or 3 gallons of bleach for an average family of 4. Well, make sure that you have enough water to clean yourself. So if, let's say you're on city water. I have well water. I did that too. you're on city water and you have an issue with it, you can always purify your water with iodine tablets. If you're a Boy Scout back in the day, that's what we used. Or you can use bleach. If you have a swimming pool, you can do the same thing with shock. This is very, very important for you to be able to figure out what it's going to take for you to take care of yourself. Don't forget your pets, because after all, you'll feed your pet before you feed yourself or your kids if you're if you're like most other Americans. Oh, my dog can't work for himself. Yeah, the heck they can't. You let him outside, they'll find food. All right? You got to take care of them as well. So take an inventory of the things that you went through over the past 6 weeks, and that's what you should have on hand. You have a list, you have an amount, you're smart, set up a spreadsheet and do it and save it, because this is not the last time we're going to see this. This is Dr. David Klein, Stages of Life Medical Institute in happy Central Florida.